So again, the hopes of planting the seed today is to grow into a bountiful harvest for retirement, right? But let me ask you a question, and this is a question that a lot of people get wrong if they're contributing to their 401k, right? So the question is, do you want to pay taxes on $1 or the seed that you're planting today? Or do you, somebody just came in and stuck my computer again. Can somebody let Jim Taylor in? Anybody knows anything around, any way around this? When somebody comes in and it gets stuck, let me know. Because now I can't move forward. All right. Okay, or do you want to pay taxes on 1 million or your bountiful harvest? Most people say, of course not. I don't want to pay taxes on 1 million. I want to pay taxes on $1, right? Although that makes sense, but what you're telling me, or what the people are telling me when they want to pay taxes on $1 and they're still contributing to their 401k, they're actually telling me that they want to pay taxes on the 1 million. That's actually what would happen if you continue to have a 401k. Because as you all know, 401k is not a tax advantage, nor is it a tax-free event, right? It's a tax deferral. So when someone says, no, I want to pay taxes on $1, you're not really paying taxes on $1 if you still have a 401k. You're actually paying taxes on $1 million. So hardworking Americans contribute on average to their qualified plans. A qualified plan is 401k, 403b, SEP, IRA, right? And most people contribute either $200, $300, $400. And for those of you that are on here that are nurses, I know you're contributing more than that, right? And you probably know a lot more people contributing more than $400. But for simplicity's sake, let's just say this employee is contributing $300. So that would equate to $3,600 a year, okay? So it's a tax deferral. So if you're deferring $3,600 a year less 25% tax bracket, for example, in this example, you're actually deferring $900 tax savings per year, okay? Or if you multiply that over 30 years, because we say that it's going to take about 30 years to save for your retirement, and if you continue to contribute to your 401k for the next 30 years, you're actually saving $27,000 tax savings your entire working life. Okay, so keep that number in mind because we're going to use that in a little bit, right? Here we go again, right? I'm going to do this. Okay, so what are your tax deductions when you're young? When you're working, let's say you're 30, you're just getting started with having children, or even younger than 30, you've got a lot of deductions, don't you, right? So one of the things is you can deduct your kids. That's why a lot of people, don't mind having kids, right? Because that's a deduction in itself. Although you love them dearly, but there's still a financial deductions. Number two is mortgage interest. Every mortgage interest is tax deductible. And then, of course, tax 401k and 403b is a qualified plan. So which means you can tax defer your contribution to a future date. And then business expense. So you all know, and most of you or some of you may have gone into FEG or any kind of side hustle, right? Because of business expense, which is so true. The tax code is not created for W-2 employees. They can only deduct what's taken out of their check. But if you have a business, home-based business, 1099, self-employed, you have business expense. So again, you have those deductions or write-off that you can take during your working years. So the question here is, and we're getting to the taxes part, is do you think taxes will go up or down when you retire? Okay, you all know in our presentation, we always say that it's going to go up because of the debt that we're in as a country, and also because historically it has gone up. There's probably one time in history that it went down in the early 1900s, right? But really, most of the time, our taxes will go up, and it's not going to stay 25% bracket between now and when you decide to retire. Okay, I figured out how I don't get stuck. I have to hit the screen. So during the time that you're putting away money, from your work, you're actually fertilizing your bountiful harvest, right? And you keep adding money and you're fertilizing it in hopes that it'll grow, right? But during that time, you're taking care of the seed. You have zero access until 59 and a half. But what if happens if you access before 59 and a half, right? You know, you can access it, but there's something that happens, and most of us know this, but yet we don't think about it when it comes down to the taxes, right? You have penalties and taxes. I believe it's 20% federal and 10% state. And I remember when I was doing real estate and I quit my corporate job, all I had was my sales job. And in 2008, the market, you know, fell down from the bottom. And, you know, we were stuck with no income. So I had to withdraw from my 401k. And guess what? My 65,000 withdrawal turned into 34,000 and some cents because I had to pay for penalties. But let's just say you're at 65 years old and you're getting ready to retire. But if you fast forward and you don't retire until 72, or you're not ready to retire at all, something happens when you're 72. I believe it's 72 and a half now. There's what we call RMD, required mandatory distribution, which means whether you like it or not, you have to start taking money away out from your 401k. Because guess what? Our greatest uncle, Sam, wants you to do that because he wants his share, right? And that's why they want you in our team. Their team is because you're actually saving not only for yourself and your family, you're actually saving for the government. They want a piece of what you have earned, hard-earned money, right? So, but if somebody says, if I can show you another product or service that you may not have to pay taxes on your bountiful harvest, would you take a look at it? And of course, people are going to say yes. Anything to avoid paying too much taxes in the legal way, of course, legally, right? So again, if you think Uncle Sam is your uncle, think twice because he's not really your uncle, or not our uncle. But meet him anyway in case you haven't met him, and in case you're a lot younger than me on here and you're just getting starting in life, you're really at the right place at the right time, because I was never educated in this way regarding my financials. When my company said, here, sign on the dotted line, this is 401k, it's for your retirement, you know, I just signed on the dotted line and I had no other options, right? So let's fast forward, and now it's time to harvest your $1 million, okay? You have a harvest that, you know, you think it's gonna last you for the rest of your life, right? So let's just say you start pulling out 6% per year, so that's $60,000, okay? And because it's a tax deferral, you have to pay taxes, right? Less taxes. So let's assume that taxes stayed at 25%. And we all know it's not going to happen because it's going to go up in the future, whether we like it or not, right? 60,000 times 25% for taxes, that's $15,000 taxes owed on that withdrawal, okay? Now, year one, again, you're retired now, you want your 60,000, your net's going to be less than 60,000 because you have to pay taxes. So year one, 50,000 tax liability. Year two, you have to pay 50,000 taxes again if you still want to continue receiving your 60,000. So at year two, you would have paid 30,000 in taxes. However, how much taxes did you save throughout your working life? Okay, we mentioned earlier, your entire working life or career, you only were given the privilege of deferring $27,000, okay? The government is really smart. They're really smart because what they really want to do is they're thinking long-term, whereas we as consumer are thinking short-term. I'm gonna defer my taxes, $900 every year, less taxes I have to pay this year. So that's short-term thinking, right? But the IRS is thinking long-term because guess what? They will get more benefit on your harvest because they'll charge you taxes on everything you put in plus some, plus your growth. So let's just look at some common misconception when people are talking to us about, yeah, it's okay to defer taxes now because later on you'll make less income. But let's assume that that's the case and we believed it. But now that you're here, here's some misconception, right? I will be in a lower tax bracket when I retire. How many of you have heard people say that? I'm not going to be working. I'm going to make less income. Therefore, I'm going to be in the lower tax bracket. Are you really, right? So the question is, or the truth is, what are your tax deductions while you are working? Remember your kids? Hopefully they're no longer a tax deduction at this time at age 65, right? Because they're all grown, they're on their own, they're having their own kids. Number two, hopefully by then your mortgage is paid, or there's you don't have any more mortgage, therefore you don't have any more interest to write off. And then your qualified plans, when you retire, you're no longer contributing to your 401k, so those are not write-offs anymore. And then number four is, hopefully when you say you're retired, you're completely retired, and you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor and maybe travel, open your own charitable organization, or whatever the case may be. So business expense may no longer be there. So again, you may not be in a lower tax bracket because you really don't have any more tax draft. You're actually in a higher tax bracket, okay? So where do you want to put your money, okay? And a lot of people don't know this. So since we're here and we're educating ourselves and we're learn a lot of skills and training as far as, working smarter with your money, we have a duty to share what we know. And when we're out there prospecting and sharing our crusade, we really need to highlight these kinds of things, like where people can put their money and what are their options. These options were never presented to me when I was still working. So when you want to put your money away and pay tax now, there's things such as CDs, stocks, savings, and what's wrong with these tax now? They don't really, you pay tax now, but the growth is either minimal or it's very risky, right? You're what do you call this? Dependent on the market, right? Or the risk is outside of your control. So the second place that you can put your money is tax later, which is what we've been talking about. And that is 401k, 403b, SEP, IRA, right, where you can defer your taxes. Now, the last is called tax never, where you may never have to pay taxes, or you may minimize, or it's a tax advantage or tax free. One is Roth IRA, and we all know Roth IRA is a government program. So when it's a government program, it's always what's in it for me, for them, right? Because they're going to catch you somehow. And one of the things is there's limitations with what you can do with Roth IRA. Number two is what we call IRC 7702. And that's related to life insurance, right? And what we offer, and what all of us offer, is this opportunity that not many people know. How many of you know IRC 7702 before joining FEG? Probably maybe a handful of you, or maybe not, because I didn't know anything about it. All I know is 401k, which is a tax code as well, and 403b is a tax code. But here we have IRC 7702, and when you say that, you sound really smart, and it's actually related to permanent life insurance with living benefits, where you can, set up your plan and not have to pay taxes as long as a qualified agent, such as us here, will set it up for the client, okay? So again, if someone didn't know that, and now they know that there's such a product, and when you highlight the 401k, and how much taxes they're actually deferring their whole working life, and how much they have to pay when they start to retire, they might be more open to look at IRC 7702 as an alternative, right? So I'm just going to give you an example, and I think I have 11 minutes, that's plenty of time. But there's an example of two brothers, right? They're both 35 today, and they're putting the same amount of money and earning 7.5 interest for the same period of time. So given everything's the same except for their vehicle where they're putting this money in. Brother A believes in the old way of saving, just like us before we saw FEG, or before we were introduced to FEG. We put in a 401k, our employer matched it, and we were so happy. There's an annual premium, or if you do every paycheck, right? And then, actually the second line here is a person has a 401k and they have an insurance too, okay? So they pay $680 annual premium on this insurance. It sounds like a term. Well, it is a term. It's a 30-year term for $600,000. That's the brother A that believes in the old way. The brother B now believes in the new way. They do not contribute a penny to the 401k, so they don't have an employee match, but they do have an IUL, an Indexed Universal Life, and they pay $7,200 annual per year, and they have a face amount of $600,000 IUL, right? So what are the results after 30 years? So 30 years, everything given the same, nobody's withdrawing. Brother A has $658,000 in his 401k. His term insurance is done. It was 30 years term insurance. His savings in his, he saved $76,000 in taxes. He tax deferred, so that's what he was able to save in his income tax for his working life. And then his total retirement now is $658,237. Okay, so brother B, his cash accumulation is IUL of $605,000. His death benefit is an increasing one, so it's $738,000. He has no tax savings because it was not a tax deferral. He paid taxes on the 1 cent or $1, which is okay with him because he knows the new way. And then his total retirement is $605,000. Okay, so it's not how much you make, but how much you keep. So some people might say, well, you know what, brother A was smarter. He's got more money in his retirement, right? But not really, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So what is brother A going to keep? If he wants $50,000 a year, he would have to withdraw $71,000 every year. So that way he can pay $21,000 plus in taxes. In 13 years, at age 65, brother A is going to run out of money. Now you know why a lot of senior citizens have to go back to work and take meager a job, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's very dignified because they have to protect their livelihood, right? But what if they can retire in a more dignified way and retire with dignity, like brother B, right? He wants $50,000 income, just like brother A. He takes $50,000 because guess what? No taxes to pay. And if brother B dies at age 100, he would have received $1.7 million and still left behind his family $462,000, all free from income tax, right? So, So which plans makes you feel more financially secure? The old way or the new way? Okay, I think all of us here, if you're an FPG, can all agree that the new way is much more secure, feel financially secure. But not all of your clients know that. And so we have a crusade to just, put it out in the open in writing, right? And we don't have to look far. If you Google this, I found this online. Vanguard and Fidelity and Investments are the two main companies that manage people's 401k from various companies, right? And I pulled this off from there. Average balance and medium balance, and we're gonna talk about the average. At age 65, the average person who worked for maybe 30 years, or I don't know, the average working span is 30 years, $279,997. Now, if you retire with $1 million, just like my example, good for you, but it's still not going to be enough, right? But let's just say $279,000. If the goal is to get $50,000 a year, and you divide that by 50,000, guess how long your money is going to last? 5.5 years. Not even 13 years, like my example. It's 5.5 years, 5.5 years. Now, hopefully you have Social Security on top of that. But even then, your main bread and butter, if you only think about 401k, is not going to last you more than 5 years. That's a scary truth, right? Okay, where it happened? All right. So Fidelity is even smaller. Their average 401k balance at age 50 to 59 is 175,000. Again, if you divide that by 50,000 a year, because that's what you want every year, and that's living conservatively, and you're watching every penny that you spend, and you're living frugal, right? It's only going to last you 3.5 years. So now we know why, a lot of people are in need of a side hustle, or they need to go out and find a second job, right? So Oops, sorry. I think that's my last slide. Okay, yeah, that's my last slide. I'm sorry, I'm just with this slide here. So anyway, that's my last slide. So in knowing this, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of what do you call this? A lot of walking to do, or talking to do, or calling to do, and just illuminate, show people the problem.